Hello, Chelsea fans. How you doing? Welcome to the show. So we'll dive straight into the video. Garnacho seems bent on playing for Chelsea. Reports that he's told Manchester United that he doesn't want to play for any other club other than Chelsea. He's willing to sit it out for 6 to 12 months just to ensure that he plays for Chelsea. And you all know my opinion about Garnacho to Chelsea. I'm not his biggest fan. And when I look at what Chelsea indeed has in the team right now, I don't think he's a pressing need because I think we've got uh, Nicholas Jackson in the building for one. I think you also have Tyreek George that can play there. Of course, you've got Gittins that was signed, and when you sign Garnacho, what it then implies is um, probably Tyreek George could be leaving the club either permanently or on loan. Uh, and I look at him and I feel like it isn't worth the hassle. And what he's done, and a lot of Chelsea fans will love it right now because that's what fans right now have been doing. You know, liking players going off kilter, that go off reservation, dump, down tools, and just generally protest or rebel against their parent club. And I just hope that if it's indeed signed, it doesn't happen. It doesn't resort to those sort of tactics at Chelsea at any point. And Fabrizio Romano has been going on tweeting on X, reposting his various tweets talking about Chelsea now working with Manchester United. Negotiations have sort of are accelerating right now. And I guess when the deal is done, when it's actually signed, I'll have to accept it. And I hope he does well when he signs. But I just look at it and just feel like he's not really a crucial need. And I would rather that Chelsea focus its attention, or more attention rather, on Xavi Simons, in my opinion, because I feel like he is more of a need to Chelsea. Now, speaking about Xavi Simons, we've heard about a possible swap deal, at least interest from RB Leipzig in Xavi Simons, in Nkunku, and of course, Chelsea have had the interest in Xavi Simons, looking they've already supposedly agreed personal terms with Xavi Simons. Now waiting to get a deal done and agreed with RB Leipzig. I would have rather preferred Chelsea to focus on getting that deal done because for the team, when you look at the Chelsea team overall, striker, you've got two players there, fullbacks, you've got two players there, two options. Left wing right now, whether or not you sign Garnacho, you've got at least two options there. Though I feel that Douglas Jackson can be an option out wide on the left. On the right, you've got two options there in Pedro Neto and Xavi Willian. And through the middle, you just have Cole Palmer. I know Cole Palmer right now is like a mini deity to a lot of Chelsea fans, but I still feel he's human. And given that right now what you have is not the Conference League where you can just maybe play a kid, get a kid from the academy and play in an European fixture in that 10 role. This is a serious competition. You're coming up against tougher teams. So you need to have someone that can come in and is ready to go plug and play, like Xavi Simons. So that's one. That's why I think Xavi Simons is more of a need, in my opinion. Nkunku, so sad it didn't work here. It didn't work out here, but it is what it is, I guess. So hoping he can go to RB Leipzig. Though there's talk about RB Leipzig not being in the Champions League, and that could be something that could, derail the deal. But I think it could work out well for him. He goes there, he's used to the league, he's used to the club, and this could work out pretty well there for him. So let's see how that all shakes down. And we're coming ever so closely to the start of the Premier League for Chelsea. It will be on Sunday against Crystal Palace at Stamford Bridge. So let's see how it all shakes down for that one. And who do you think should start in those games? For me, I think the likes of Estevao William possibly could start. I know about Pedro Neto. If Pedro Neto starts, no problem. Jao Pedro, for me, is the number one striker with Liam Delap behind him. And of course, I would go with Gittins at this point in time to start, with Tyreek George being on the coming off the bench. But I need to say this. This may seem like a hot take to some people, but believe me, it's not. I'm not saying Tyreek George is overall better than Gittins. What I'm saying is Tyreek George has more tools in his belt than Gittins. So, but he's a little more inexperienced than Gittins. So that's why Gittins has a slight edge over him. And then when you talk about Gittins as well, there's something I noticed in the game was AC Milan, though he was very good in parts of the game. But something I noticed, he seemed a bit frightened or a bit tentative, skeptical about cutting onto his right foot, especially when Loftus-Cheek, Ruben Loftus-Cheek came close to Janus, came close to Musa, and then sort of had this doubling up partnership up against Gittins. So that's one thing I hope he gets a bit braver in the Premier League, because they're going to always show you on the outside. Teams are going to double up on you. And that's one thing I hope Enzo Maresca tackles going into the Crystal Palace game and other games to come, which is get the fullbacks to overlap every now and again. I know we love this inverting thing. Well, you have Cucurella inverting very well. He does that brilliantly. I'm so happy you have Hato right now in the building, and Hato can invert perfectly as well. And he's shown that he's a very good defender too, not just an offensive threat. So you have Rhys James inverting as well. And one thing I'm happy with is the long balls that they're willing to go long from the goalkeeper, from Robert Sanchez. They're willing to make those passes between the lines in the 18-yard box. So long passes through that, so that's fine. But we need to see those fullbacks overlap, because I noticed that in the AC Milan game, though Chelsea ran off 4-1 winners, brilliant, good to see, but that's something that teams could begin to do right now, because right now, if you see Estevao William ripping your fullback to shred, if you see Gittins, ripping your fullback to shred, as a team, as a coach, as an opposition coach, what would you do? You would look to, set your team up in a way where they double up, against the winger. And if you don't have those fullbacks overlapping, then it presents an issue. So, but if I go on how the team should set up going into the season, back to talk about Nkunku, possible swap deal to RB Leipzig. Is this something you're up for? Do you still feel like he has a future at Chelsea? Or do you think, like me, it's time for him to leave? Because it's a funny one, it's a strange one, Crystal Nkunku, because came here with, highly rated, and then he got injured, and every Chelsea fan was like, when Nkunku comes back, when Nkunku gets fit, he will be the guy for Chelsea. He will be the guy for Chelsea. Everyone couldn't wait. We saw the cameos in games like the Wolves game, if you remember, under Pochettino. Looked good in those cameos. And then the preseason, he shows out in the preseason. Let's not get it twisted. Preseason of last season, he was one of Chelsea's best performers. And then his league starts, he's played out of position. And then you begin to see the struggling. He scores goals in the Conference League. He gets to be played 2 minutes to the end of game, 3 minutes to the end of games. You begin to see the struggle, and you could see the confidence seep out of him. And so while he is a quality player, I think his head is gone, and I think it's time he leaves as well. And a swap deal for Xavi Simons, maybe with £20 million or £30 million going the other way, I think that's absolutely brilliant business, in my opinion. I think that's absolutely brilliant business if that can be done. So we need Xavi Simons in the building right now. We do. Chelsea does need him because, like I said, it gives technical or tactical flexibility. If you want to play with 3 10s, you can have Estevao that can be one of the wide 10s, and then you could have Xavi Simons as the wide left 10 with Cole Palmer as the central 10, if you get what I mean. So for me, I think he's more of a need than your Garnacho. Now, what do we feel about Garnacho? Are you beginning to warm to the idea of the Garnacho? For me, I'll just have to accept it when the deal is done. When this is actually done, signed, he joins Chelsea, trains with the team, maybe comes off the bench for Crystal Palace or any other game, then maybe. But I still just look at it and say, I don't think this is a deal that really, really is needed to be done. I don't know what you think, but I just feel like there are other areas that should be looked at. And one of those areas for me, I don't think is centre back, although we've heard talk about Chelsea being interested in Kapia. In Kapia, that's the centre back for Bayer Leverkusen. He's a left-sided centre back. I just don't feel like Chelsea need to go out there and exploit the cash on the centre back, especially because you've got solutions in the building. In my opinion, you've got you got Aaron Anselmino in the team. You've got Chaloba. Thankfully, he's not injured. He was taken off as a precaution. You can see he walked off. You've got Wesley Fofana is there, still in the team. So you've got Tosin as well. You've got Josh Achiampong. I think this can be his moment. Unfortunately, it has to come at the expense of Colwill, who's injured. But that's how young players get to make their name, really. In a team like Chelsea, you don't get that spot just given to you. Opportunities open up, and it's left for you to take advantage of it. And Josh has shown that he belongs. In the various games he's played, in the Conference League when he had to play, in the Premier League last season when he had to play, in the preseason games he's had to play this season, he's looked like he belongs in the team. So I don't think Chelsea should be looking to sign, another centre back. For me, I think Chelsea should be looking to sell two centre backs in BOMBSHELL and Disasi, in my opinion. Well, maybe if you say you want to give Benfica, BOMBSHELL, and BOMBSHELL and Disasi to Benfica for maybe £25 million to get Antonio Silva, maybe, and not to forget you've got Mamadou Sarr that's gone out on loan to Strasbourg. So I think in that centre back position, you're stacked. Chelsea's pretty stacked at this minute. So that's how I see that centre back issue. So sad that Colwill is out because he was coming into his own. He was becoming more of a leader, becoming more mature in the team and playing more with his head than his heart. As I said in the interview, where he felt like his heart was taking over and was becoming too passionate and didn't think that much. I didn't think very well when he was defending. So he was really coming to his own. So sad that he won't be playing that much this season, let's face it. But I think in centre back spot, Chelsea is pretty covered, in my opinion. And now back on Garnacho, do you want him in the team? Let me know what you think in the chats. Let's have a discussion about it. What do you think about Garnacho? I've said it, it's not one I want, but if he comes in, that's it. Now there's some bits of news I saw, and I want us to have a discussion about it. Now, do you think there's any way that Nicholas Jackson is reintegrated in this team? Because I saw a report to say if Nicholas Jackson is not sold, he will be reintegrated into the team. Now, if he's reintegrated, is he going to be the third option as a striker? Is it then going to be the left winger? Because suddenly certain parts of the pitch become crowded right now, because right now you've got two left wingers in Tyreek George and Gittins. If Garnacho is signed, you've got three, and then you've got Jackson. Does he play as left wing? He plays as a left winger, and then you've got Liam Delap, and you've got João Pedro. Do you think really Nicholas Jackson would want to be third choice? So for me, when I saw that news, I was a bit taken aback. Reintegrated? It's either you want him gone or you want him to stay. In my opinion, right now, Nicholas Jackson, I'm fine with him leaving if he wants to play as that striker. So this talk about reintegrating him into the team depends on where he's going to play. It depends on the business that Chelsea does. If Chelsea go on to sign Garnacho, I don't see why Jackson should be in the team anymore, because I just think it will make the dressing room very toxic, in my opinion, because you've got João Pedro, you've got Liam Delap, they're scoring goals, they are number one and number two. When we talk about strikers for Chelsea, and Nicholas Jackson is number three. Would you really want to be number three? Would you really be comfortable with number three? And we've seen Jackson sulk a lot. There was some games where he's been taken off last season. We see him sulk, we see him look so unhappy. So you can imagine when you have to battle with two people ahead of you, are you sure you want Jackson to be in the building in that regard? Now, for me, if we say we're not signing Garnacho anymore and, wants to play Nicholas Jackson as a left winger, then by all means. But if you're going all out there to sign Garnacho because Garnacho has said he doesn't want to play for Manchester United anymore, he wants to be out of the team and he only wants to join Chelsea, then for me that becomes very, very complicated in my opinion. So I think Nicholas Jackson should leave, get a good pay for him, maybe 50 million thereabout, maybe from a Newcastle United. I heard AC Milan are interested, but the problem with AC Milan is, like many Italian clubs, they may not be able to come up with the cash. Maybe one of those things where they take him on a pure loan and then take the responsibility of paying his wages, and then he's right back at Chelsea next season, next summer, and then you're thinking about how you have to sell him or get him out of the team. So for me, that's an issue. But on the flip side of that, that can be a good thing. He goes to AC Milan, he plays well, maybe scores 16 something goals, and then increases his value. Then you can sell him off come next summer. So let's see if that's an option. And speaking about players that could leave Chelsea, Renato Veiga, talks of Dortmund being interested in Renato Veiga. Now, can that deal be done? Because people have said with Cowell out injured, let's reintegrate Veiga into the team. That's not happening. These players are humans. So reintegrating into the team, no. I think it's best to let him go, get some money for him, and get him out of the building. Not because I don't think he's a good defender. I think he's a good defender. I just think the relationship between him and Maresca has broken down, and so there's no point trying to force it. And I just think the relationship between both of them is done. So just let Vega go to Dortmund, and let Maresca just have the peace of mind to coach the team. Because what you don't want is a toxic dressing room, and this is a young team. And when you want to compete for things like the league title, Champions League spots, going as far in the Champions League as possible, you don't want any distraction. And I just feel like having a Vega around could be a distraction. Because right now I think his head is set on leaving. And that's one of the things that happen when you keep a set of players aside and say, okay, you train on your own. I'm not coaching you. You're not part of our preseason friendlies. You're not part of the Club World Cup games. You're aside. When you do that, that's one of the downsides. The upside is you have the players in the team, and you have the players you want to coach. They're with you there. They're training with you there. Everyone is used to. Everyone, has this connection with every teammate that are used to themselves. You have a small number that you can easily manage. So that's the upside, and that helps you. That helps improve your performance on a day-to-day basis or on a weekend-to-weekend basis. But the downside is if you ever need to get players from that pool of players that you've kept aside, then it becomes an issue. Then it becomes a problem because it now becomes a lot difficult for you to convince those people that, to convince those people that you really have you really have them at heart. It becomes really, really difficult in my opinion. So I think that's the downside of that. So this is what Garnacho had to say about his future at Manchester United. So yeah, this is what he had to say at Manchester United about his future. A quote. So he said, okay, the new Alejandro Garnacho's message to Manchester United: Chelsea, or I stay here and don't play football for 6 to 12 months. So that just means he's on his way out. That just means he's on his way out. And while on one hand it's good that he wants to come to Chelsea, he's on his way out. That just means he's on his way out. And while it's good from a Chelsea fans' perspective, it just means probably this deal will have to drag on a bit. So let's see how it shakes down. Garnacho to Chelsea, it seems probably at the end of Probably that happens come the end of the season. I mean, at least come the end of the transfer window. Let's see how that shakes down. And then let's talk about the team you want to see going into the game, versus Crystal Palace. So for me, I'll say Palmer in the 10. That's what I'll start with. I'll start with Palmer in the 10, João Pedro, the 9, Pedro Estevao, right wing, left wing. I'll probably go with, what's his face now? I'll probably go with Bino Gittins. And then out of the midfield, I'll go with Enzo and Caicedo. Although Andre Santos is making this has a good shout to start that game because he's been good. All the time he's come on, he's been good. One thing he has over Enzo Fernandez, I think for now Enzo Fernandez is better on the ball than him right now in the Chelsea system. But I think when it comes to off the ball work, I think Andre Santos is better, has the edge right now on Enzo Fernandez in my opinion. So he does have a shout, in my opinion. He does have a shout, in my opinion. So let's see who starts there. And then when you go back, I'll be looking to start with Reece James. In my opinion, Reece James, I think while Gusto, has been decent, is beginning to come back into form. I would go with Reece James because I just think he has more tools to play in that role and to play in the Maresca system. He's got pace. He can fit more in midfield than Gusto. I think Gusto is just wasted in midfield because he doesn't contribute anything. Gusto is the guy you want when you just want to bump, you just want to full back to bump up and down that right side, create width for the winger. And I think that's something Chelsea must consider going into future games. Because though in the Bayer Leverkusen game, in the AC Milan game, Chelsea were pretty much very comfortable in those games, shockingly comfortable, especially in the Bayer Leverkusen game, which is odd, though Chelsea scored more goals in the AC Milan game. But still, I saw some aspects where it were like the wingers were getting cut off, they were getting crowded out. We saw people doubling up on Estevao, doubling up on Gittins, and especially for Gittins, that made life really difficult for him. So I'm just hoping that Enzo Maresca allows his fullbacks to overlap. But Reece James for me starts, and then of course at left back it has to be Cucurella. Cucurella should be the guy that starts. Pato, while he's shown that he can come in, plug and play, and just like Gusto can come in and you don't really miss Cucurella, but I think Cucurella right now is arguably the best left back in the world. So he starts. And then when you come to the centre back now, that's where I think it's a bit uncertain. It's not as clear cut, as the other areas. So looking at centre back options with Colwell injured, I would go with Tosin and I say Chalobah to start in that central defensive pairing. But I wouldn't frown at Josh Archiampong. I wouldn't frown at him at all if he starts because he has been pretty good. He's shown that yes, he belongs there. And then goalkeeper, we go Robert Sanchez. That's what we go with. Now, speaking about goalkeepers, I heard about Donnarumma. They talked about Chelsea linked to Donnarumma. Also, some talk that Chelsea are not linked with him. Are not interested in signing him. But what do you think about Donnarumma to Chelsea? Is it a deal you can get behind? For me, I would say yes. I'll say it's a deal I can absolutely get behind 100% because I think overall, when it comes to doing what a goalkeeper is expected to do, he's better than Sanchez. But when you consider a couple of things, if Maresca is not open to being flexible with his goalkeepers, by that I mean how they play from the back, where you could maybe have the goalkeeper just lay the ball off to a centre back in midfield in the 18-yard box to play the ball out from the back. If he's not going to be flexible in that regard and wants his goalkeeper to actually play out from the back, then Donnarumma could be something that wouldn't work, in my opinion. And on the other side of things, when you're talking about Donnarumma, you're talking about his wages as well. His wages, if Chelsea wants to stick to, this strict wage structure and not go beyond the 150 or 160 or whatever it is, then it becomes a lot difficult to get Donnarumma, because right now Donnarumma is on north of £200,000 a week. So there will be no point trying to negotiate that one, because I don't think he'll be willing to reduce his salary. Now, while I've said, like, we've had reports to say Chelsea are not interested in him, but this looks like an opportunity. It looks like one of those deals that this board would do. You know, we've had deals where it feels like Chelsea not interested, but it just presents a unique opportunity, and they jump on it. So maybe this could be one of those ones. So, tough opinions on Donnarumma coming in as Chelsea goalkeeper. Is it something that you're up for, or you prefer Robert Sanchez? And for me, Robert Sanchez, yes, he's been good. But when I look at it's an odd one, because I look at the bench option. I look at Philip Jorgensen. I don't think that he's that good as a goalkeeper. Yes, he can play out from the back. If he was a six, that would be brilliant. If he was a midfielder, that would be brilliant, because he's so good on the ball, so composed on the ball. But he has to do what a goalkeeper is meant to do. You have to save shots. You have to, command your box. And that is one thing that he has not been able to show that he can do for Chelsea, unfortunately, in my opinion. So I think Chelsea still need another goalkeeper. Now, if you're not going to sell Robert Sanchez and he's going to be your number one going into the season, then maybe you just keep Philip Jorgensen, because you're not going to sign a Donnarumma to be your number two. It's not going to happen. Yeah, so Donnarumma, let's even see, how tall is Donnarumma? How tall is Donnarumma? In feet, he's pretty tall. So he's 6'5". So I think that's the same height as Robert Sanchez. He's 6'5". Robert Sanchez is 6'6". Okay, Robert Sanchez is just an inch taller than Donnarumma. So that's height wise. I think that there, but I just think as overall as a goalkeeper, Donnarumma is better. Is better than Sanchez. So what do you think? Do you think Chelsea go all out for Donnarumma? And now there's this talk. Where has this reports come from? That Everton could be interested in signing Tariq George. I think that from the hard tackle, Everton are now looking to sign Tariq George. For me, I just don't want Tariq George gone. I don't want Tariq George sold. I want him to still be part of the team, because even when you watch him play in these, even when you watch him play in the preseason friendlies, you watch him play in the Club World Cup, it looks like he's meant to be there. But people have started what they do with Madueke, talking about his braids, talking about, I think he's now opened his ears for earrings or something like that. People are now beginning to talk about that. Well, for me, obviously, I don't braid my hair. It's not something that I think I ever want to do, but I'm ancient anyways. But I don't see why people use that as the basis of criticizing the player. Players do what they do. That's the style you have. I'm sure some people have friends that braid their hair, wear earrings, and all that. That's not what you use as a stick to beat them with, in my opinion. You look at what they do on the pitch. And though Gittins right now is the newest thing, is the new shiny thing, at Chelsea, and everyone's sort of fawning over Gittins, I still pick out flaws in his game. I still pick out aspects of his game that maybe need some polish, or maybe that could come good later down the season as he gets used to the team. But when I look at Tariq George, I don't see him that far off, in my opinion. And that's why I'm a bit skeptical about going all out for Garnacho. Now, if you're just joining the stream, talking about possible exit at Chelsea and things that are happening generally at Chelsea, Garnacho pushing for Chelsea move. Is it something you want to see? Garnacho at Chelsea, a possible swap deal for Nkunku to RB Leipzig, and Xavi Simons going the other way. Both teams are not looking to, make it an actual swap deal. They're hoping that they can just do the deals individually. And I'm sure they're doing all that because of FFP and all these other financial regulations. So is that something you want to see happen? You're happy with Nkunku leaving? For me, I'm happy with Nkunku leaving. Though I would prefer Sterling to leave first than Nkunku, because I think Nkunku can bring more, but his head is no longer at Chelsea. So it's fair play for him to leave. Sterling is a name I want off Chelsea's books. We had Fulham interested. I hope they can speed up their interest. At some point as well, got reports that West Ham are also interested in the signing of Raheem Sterling. I can't wait for him to leave, man. Can't wait for him to leave. Okay, David. Hi, good evening. David says, hi, good evening. Thanks for the show. Please tell me about Xavi Simons joining Chelsea and Alejandro Garnacho. Now, Xavi Simons, what I heard about Xavi Simons is that personal terms have been agreed with between Chelsea and Xavi Simons. So he's waiting patiently for Chelsea. But right now, Chelsea wants some outgoings. They want to sell some players before pursuing that deal. And when I see those sort of reports, I feel like Chelsea should be more, would I say, aggressive, more progressive when it comes to getting the Xavi Simons deal done. That's what I feel like. I feel like he's more of a need than a Garnacho. He's more of a need than Garnacho, in my opinion. And this is what Fabrizio Romano tweeted about 2 hours ago. So this may not be like the latest of the latest, but this is what he tweeted 2 hours ago about Chelsea still being in contact with Xavi Simons. So this is what he posted. It said, Chelsea maintain contacts for Xavi Simons among main targets while they also negotiate for Garnacho. The two topics remain separate, as always reported, and Xavi's priority remains Chelsea move. Discussion ongoing again this week with RB Leipzig. So it means negotiations still going on for both players to join Chelsea. So if you want Garnacho at Chelsea, that's good news for you as well. If you want Xavi Simons, that's good news for you as well. So the negotiations are still ongoing. So fair play in that regard. Say David said, okay, thanks for updating me on Xavi Simons. You're welcome. And do subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and do share this video to people you feel will love this content as well. So Xavi Simons, I feel he's more of a priority for Chelsea than Garnacho. But if they have to get Garnacho, yeah, that's it. Let's see what he can do. Now, Garnacho isn't without talent. That's a point I want to make. When I say I don't want Garnacho at the club, I'm not saying he's talentless, he's useless, throw him in the bin. He has some talent, he has some ability. But when I look at what Chelsea, already has in house, I just feel like it's not a need, because it's not like it's some super upgrade. Maybe like a Rodrigo, even though Rodrigo, I have my doubts about him, but he's not a super upgrade on Gittins, not a super upgrade on Tyreek George. So those are the kind of things that make me look at Garnacho and say, oh, well, he might be talented a bit, he might have some talent, has some character, attitude about him, which is not always a bad thing. Like people try to do with Madueke. It's amazing how people are now embracing, Garnacho's attitude, but sort of made Donny Madueke look like a villain, which is just madness to me. But he's gone to Arsenal, so no need to talk about him here. So he's not without talent, but he's not a needle mover for me. So he's not the kind of player you want to risk it all to get. Like, let's go all in on him to get him. But on the other side of things, where something that makes you feel like, okay, I can see why they want to get him, is a desire that he's shown to come to Chelsea. He's turned down moves to Bayer Leverkusen, where he could have joined his former coach in Everton. He's turned down moves to Napoli, to come to only to hold out for Chelsea. So that you can look at it as a fan to say it's good to have a player that is bent on joining your team. So, but when it comes to what he gives on the pitch, I don't think he is a huge needle mover. Now we're having people coming up with revisionist history. They have some sort of selective amnesia at the moment, trying to go on how Garnacho is better than Madueke. Like, no, he just isn't. I know he's gone to Arsenal, so now it's time you banter him. Fair play. That's what football is all about. Football tribalism. That's what it's all about. You know, whichever player is coming to your team, you rate. One who's left your team, you no longer rate. That's fair enough. That's fair play. I understand that. I quite appreciate that. But he just isn't better than Madueke, in my opinion. So David says it's like me also only wants Simon to join Chelsea. Yeah, for me, that's where Chelsea really has a need. Every other part of the pitch, you've got two. Even the goalkeeping position where I complain of Robert Sanchez not being good enough and Philip Jorgensen definitely not being good enough, you still have two options. You have Robert Sanchez as the number one, and you have Jorgensen as a number two if it's injuries or suspension, or maybe you want to rest the goalkeeper for whatever reason for maybe a Carabao Cup game. You have an option. Fullback, you have options. You have your Rhys James and Gusto left back, same thing, Cucurella and Hato midfield stacked. Esugo, Caicedo, Andre Santos, Enzo Fernandez. Right wing, you've got Pedro Neto. You've got Estevao William left wing, Pedro Neto. Left wing, you've got Gittins, and you've got Type Jordan at this minute. You've also got possibly Nicholas Jackson if he doesn't leave. And then you've got the striking position, you've got two, Liam Delap and João Pedro. But that 10 role, you just have one out and out 10 in Cole Palmer. And when I say these people want to push back, no, I'm not saying Cole Palmer is bad. I'm not saying sign Xavi Simons to replace him. I'm just saying you have a Cole Palmer. He is the best player at Chelsea at this minute. He's the most important player at Chelsea at this minute. And then you have serious competitions that you have to play in. You have the Champions League to play in, you have the Premier League to play in, and you have the FA Cup and League Cup. At least you want to make sure you go as far as possible in, the Champions League. So if in the Champions League, if you have a Champions League game on a Wednesday and on a Saturday you're playing maybe a Man City or an Arsenal, you need to be able to switch players up so you can rest some players so that they're fit enough and strong enough to start against Arsenal while maintaining strong teams for the both games. So that's where players like Xavi Simons will come in. And then if you want to play a narrow 4-2-3-1, then Xavi Simons in the team helps you do that because Gittins, forget about it, Gittins is an out and out and out winger. He can't play in one of those 10 roles. Pedro Neto is an out and out winger. You can't squeeze him in and make him a 10. He's going to struggle. So if you get Xavi Simons in and then Estevao can play in the 10 a bit, you have those three of them there. That allows you that technical flexibility. And I see signs that Enzo Maresca may want to, in some games, play with that sort of formation where you have three 10s, three flexible and dynamic 10s behind a striker, and then you have your fullbacks overlapping, like your Cucurella overlapping and your Gusto overlapping. Or you could have Cucurella overlap, or you could have Cucurella inverting to midfield while Malo Gusto overlaps. So that's why I think Xavi Simons is more important to me as a signing because of the need of the team as opposed to a Garnacho. So David says, and at what time Chelsea is going to play Crystal Palace? Now, I think it's about 3 o'clock on Sunday. Let me just make sure. Let me just be certain of the time. I think it's 2 o'clock on Sunday. It's 2 o'clock on Sunday. 2 o'clock on Sunday. So that's when Chelsea get to play Crystal Palace. That's a game that Chelsea should win. But the way Crystal Palace set up, and that's why I talk about Enzo Maresca allowing fullbacks overlap. They go with the three at the back, they go with their wing backs overlapping. But then again, what would happen is Oliver Glasner, we've seen what he did to Liverpool. We saw what he did in the FA Cup final. He is going to crowd out our wingers. The wingers are going to be crowded out. So you need those fullbacks. So hopefully he gets the fullback overlapping, just like he did in the Club World Cup with Gusto, and he did in some moments in the Bayer Leverkusen game. So that's something I would love to see. Love to see those fullbacks overlapping. And to be honest, I'm beginning to see certain tweaks in the game, certain philosophical shifts by Enzo Maresca, which is what I want to see, which is what I was calling for last season. Because football is an expression of art. You could play it anyway. But when the opposition says we're stopping you from playing, then what do you do? What do you do? If you're just joining the stream, we're talking about a lot of topics. Talk about Garnacho pushing to move to Chelsea. Talk some opinions on that one. Talked about Nkunku possible swap deal for Xavi Simons. What do you think about it? Do you still want Nkunku to be at the club? Do you still feel like he has something to contribute, or you're quite happy with him leaving? And also, who are the other players that you would want to leave Chelsea at this point in time? I can give you my list. Nkunku, for the reasons I've stated, he should leave. Raheem Sterling, he should leave as well. And Renato Veiga should leave, not because he's not a good defender, not because he's not a good player. I just think the relationship between him and the club is now solid. So rather than having a toxic environment around the club, it's best for both parties that he leaves. Maybe he goes off to Benfica, that reported to be interested in him as well. And then we talked about Garnacho. Garnacho, is this someone you really want to see at the club? Or are you just taken over by the idea that he only wants Chelsea? Is that why you may want him? Or if you had several clubs interested in him that had his attention, would you still want him at Chelsea? So, and I've said this, I had to make this clear. I'm not saying he doesn't have ability. He does have a lot of ability, has potential, and it's like a lot of players that Chelsea sign. They have the potential to be great. May not be great now. They have a lot of potential to be great. But I just said, like I said at the top of the show, when you look at what he brings to the table and you look at what Chelsea already has in the house, then you look at it and say he's not such a needle mover. He doesn't come in and immediately change Chelsea's life on that left wing. And see that you have your Tyreek George, that you have your Nicholas Jackson that can play in that role, in addition to Gittins that was just signed this season. So that makes you scratch your head to say, do you really need to sign him? So although once he's signed, that then means Tyreek George would be leaving. Now, if you want Tyreek George to start the club, then Garnacho wouldn't come. But once Garnacho signs, I think Tyreek George will be leaving. But speaking about Tyreek George, we talk about interest, from Everton looking to get Tyreek George, as they supposedly failed to get Tyler Dibley. Now, I know we're talking about Chelsea and this Up Chelsea TV. So subscribe if you're a Chelsea fan. If you like the content, please subscribe to the channel and do share this video out to other Chelsea fans. But I just need to talk about Everton for a few minutes. Now, it does seem odd, the sort of signings that Everton are making. It's not because those players aren't good players or they're not technically gifted players. They are technically gifted players, but I just feel like it seems odd. They don't sound to me or feel to me like David Moyes type of players. And the same signing was done last season when you had Sean Dyche as the coach, and they didn't quite feel like Sean Dyche type signings. So you're getting the likes of Dewsbury Hall, signed from Chelsea. They're another technically gifted player, though he didn't get as much game time in Chelsea, fair play. And then you've got Ndaye, although he was signed before Sean Dyche. He was signed under Sean Dyche, so that's another player that's a bit different. And then they're interested in Tyler Dibley. So looking at it, how does that work? And then you're going for a Tyreek George again, plus Grealish that they've got on loan. It just feels to me like it's not quite a David Moyes signing. Maybe Everton are pulling the Chelsea where they sign the players they feel would work for the team, for the club, and they're going to their new stadium. They want to play more exciting football, more entertaining football. And maybe David Moyes may just be one of the first ones on the chopping block in terms of managers that could get the boot come the start of the season. So not wishing anyone to lose their job, but it just feels that way to me. Those signings that Everton have made just doesn't seem like a David Moyes signing to me. So back to Tyreek George. To Everton. Mm, I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't want him to go. I don't want Tyreek George to leave the club because he is good. He is good. I know we have Gittins now, and once you sign a new player, everyone is in love with that new player, and every old player, not age-wise, but every player that's playing that wing, previously is no longer good in a lot of fans' eyes. But Tyreek George is good, man. If Tyreek George goes to Dortmund, goes to RB Leipzig, because it's one of the players that RB Leipzig have spoken to Chelsea about in terms of, you know, um, a swap deal or for him to move on the loan deal to RB Leipzig. If he goes to the German league, the German Bundesliga, he would, in I would say 12 to 14 months, become worth maybe 50 million pounds at least, because the way football is played in the German league, if you got pace, you're a winger, you will always thrive. You will thrive. Now, because the balls are usually punched in really quickly to the wingers, and with the higher line that most teams in the German Bundesliga play, Tyreek George will rip it up. He would absolutely rip it up. So if I was Chelsea and I wanted to give Tyreek George game time, I wouldn't sell him. I would send him out on loan instead. Now let's see Tyreek George. How long is his contract? How long is Tyreek George's contract? How long is Tyreek George's contract? Is it a 5-year contract? Some say 5-year contract. Let's see. So if it's a 5-year contract or a 4-year contract, I'll send him out on loan for a season. Go out on loan to Dortmund or Leipzig, and you go there and play. And speaking about Dortmund as well, before I forget, they are also interested in Renato Veiga. So they're interested in Kani Chukwuemeka, interested in Tyreek George, possibly on loan, interested in Vega. At some point, they wanted it to be a loan, but they're now willing to go out to buy him. Kani Chukwuemeka wanted a loan, but now willing to go out to sign him on a permanent deal. Let's see how that works out. But they're interested in all these three players. So, I mean, if they're interested in these three players, I would sell Kani Chukwuemeka because right now, if you're going for Xavi Simons and you've got Cole Palmer obviously in the team, so three is a crowd in that middle. Three is a crowd in that 10 row. And then Vega can go, like I said. Then Tyreek George, I will loan out. One full season, no buy option. Just go there, let him rip it up. And then you can either bring him back, reintegrate him into the team, or sell him. But I really think Tyreek George would be a mistake for Chelsea to let him go. And I don't want him to go to Everton because this is what I see with Everton. Because I don't think this sort of signings are David Moyes type of signings. If you allow Tyreek George to go to Everton on loan, his career would die. And this is why I say so. Because people always revert to mean, they always revert to their type, they always revert to who they are at their core when things don't go their way. So early on, David Moyes may want to play attacking football, blah, 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 blah. Dyer, Jack Grealish, Tyreek George, if he goes there. And once results don't seem to go the way he wants, immediately he will revert to the defensive style of play. And one of the first people to suffer will be Tyreek George. I think that player has a lot of talent. And I've seen a lot of people already, being out on him, being out on Tyreek George, and going on and that wasking lyrical on Rio Ugumoha. They're going, oh, Rio, it was so fantastic. Oh, how come we let him go because of Tyreek George? Tyreek George is actually a better talent than Rio Ugumoha. He's actually a better talent. Actually is. And let's face it, if Tyreek George was signed from maybe Dortmund or something in this preseason, wouldn't you say he was pretty decent? He's been pretty decent in this preseason. He's been pretty decent. Let's not act like like Gittins had just come and just schooled him on that left wing. No, Gittins has been good, not fantastic in my opinion. He's shown signs of what he can do, electric pace, brilliant pace, electrifying pace. Shown his skill, beautiful step over. It's always lovely to see people doing this R9 step over. Wow, wow, and you get past your man, beautiful. But in that game, he showed one weakness he has, which I just hope maybe his first game jitters, so he's a bit um, unsettled. And once he settles into the team, he will come good and become braver on the ball and all that, maybe. But I must point this out: that game was AC Milan. He ran, he ran at Musa, the fullback for AC Milan. Step over, beautifully executed, get past him, get fouled. Then, if you notice, after that, Loftus-Cheek did what a midfielder would do. If you see your fullback getting roasted, you come close to sort of create an additional barrier to say where you're going to go to the winger. So once Loftus-Cheek did that, Gittins found it a bit difficult, or rather didn't show that willingness to cut in on his right foot. And he didn't do that until I think Loftus-Cheek left. He didn't really cut in on his right foot. After that, he felt was a bit tentative on doing that. And I just hope that's first game jitters. You're playing at Stamford Bridge, your first game, in front of the shared end, the fans shouting, you're feeling the passion, probably you feel a bit under pressure. Maybe, let's say that's it. Because going into this season, and that's one thing not only Chelsea fans do, fans of other top four, top six clubs do this. We feel like the football is all about our club. It's not about the opposition. They don't have anything to do. It's all about how we want to play. But when you play coming up against an opposing team, they won't let you play. They look at what you do well and look at how to frustrate what you do well. Like we're going to see on Sunday. I think Chelsea would win. I believe Chelsea will win. But Crystal Palace will do their utmost to frustrate Chelsea. So, and one of the things to do when you say that, okay, the key parts of how Chelsea want to play is winger isolation, winger 1v1 fullback. And definitely, Glasner is not going to allow his fullbacks to get roasted. So it's going to be, we'll double up on Gittins, we'll double up on Estavayo. So what's the option to happen there? So if one, you're not brave enough to outwit your opponent at your fullback and cut onto your stronger right foot as a left winger from a Gittins perspective, that's a problem. In addition to Maresca, I hope he allows people overlap. So if you're enjoying the stream, what do you feel about Nkunku possibly leaving and joining RB Leipzig? Xavi Simons coming the other way, allegedly, or rather say, according to reports, Xavi Simons has agreed personal terms with Chelsea. What do you feel about that? How are you feeling about that? Are you excited about that? If it's a deal you want to see happen, please smash the like button and click this subscribe button as well. So what do you feel about Xavi Simons possibly coming to Chelsea? Those opinions on that one, let me know in the chat. And then Garnacho, are you all in on Garnacho? He's shown resilience. He wants to come to Chelsea. Only wants Chelsea. Personal terms have been agreed some time ago, and Fabrizio Romano has been retweeting and been pinning tweets about Garnacho. And when he begins to do that on his X profile, then that's sort of an indication that the deal is about to happen. Maybe get it here, we go to do tomorrow. Let's see. Of course, we heard about evaluation of maybe 50 million from a Manchester United perspective, while Chelsea wants somewhere around 30 million pounds, and offer about 30 million pounds. And it's a bit crazy that Chelsea are open to Nkunku going the other way to Manchester United. That's just madness to me. That's just madness. Absolute madness. Nkunku plus money for Garnacho? That's crazy. I just can't understand how anyone would think of something so crazy. You do that if you're signing, let's see, maybe And Lamar maybe. Maybe you want to sign a Lamar, and then you say Nkunku plus maybe £50 million or £60 million for a Lamar. Maybe that sort of deals you want to do. Or you want to get Xavi Simons, that I think right now is more of a need for Chelsea, and right now is a better player than Garnacho, though they play in different positions. So if it's for Xavi Simons and you want to do, okay, due to the need we have, let's do 40 million plus Nkunku. He's used to the league, 804 Xavi Simons. Yeah, I kind of get it. But for Garnacho, no, 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 no. So, Philip Xavi Simons, also we talked about Veiga, Dortmund. How do you feel about it? He's either there are talks of him going to either Dortmund or Benfica. Thoughts and opinions about Vega leaving. Are you in the camp of people that feel like since Cole is injured, he should be integrated into the team, reintegrated into the team? Let me know your opinions on that in the chat, in the comments. For me, I just feel like no, we'll pass that. We'll pass that period. It's time for it to go. It's a player I rate because he can play multiple positions, but I just feel like it's time for him to leave. It's time for him to say goodbye on that one. So, and then we've talked about like Sterling. Sterling should be a player Chelsea should be really looking to let go. And right now for Sterling, I'll take 10 million. It's not a deal that you win on. You know, fans now are sounding like financial experts. Well, oh, we can't let a player go for 10 million. We must get the full amount. We must get the amount we paid for a player 5 years ago, even if his stock has plummeted. It doesn't happen that way. If you bought a car, say £10,000, and now that car has racked up 200,000 miles, the door has been dinged, the headlamp is cracked. You're not going to get the same amount for it. You're not going to get £10,000 for the car. No, maybe you look for, maybe you get a 3 or 4 or thereabouts for it. So the same thing. Sterling was coming off the back of his best performances for Man City, or best form for Man City, and then joined Chelsea, and it's not really been great since. So for me, I think you get 10 million for Sterling and his wage bill, his wages off the wage bill. That's beautiful. Get him up there. So Manchester United fans were going on about Jadon Sancho. Oh, Jadon Sancho, don't let him go. You keep him on the bench, let him rot there. Doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to keep a player in the academy and you're paying his wages? So you want to pay Sterling's wages 300 plus £1,000 a week, keep him with the reserves because you want to get full price? Doesn't make any sense. He's not going to play. He's not going to contribute in any way. If he was going to contribute in one way, maybe with the academy kids, mentoring them, playing the odd minutes in Carabao Cup, FA Cup, odd minutes, 10 minutes to go in the Premier League, same thing, Champions League. Then you can say, okay, he's still contributing, but he's not going to contribute at all. And then you want that player to still be in the team? Nah. For me, I just think it's time he goes. Why I say he should go is because I've seen what he's done, where he will just cheat the press and just hang around. So I just feel like he doesn't suit what Enzo Maresca wants to do, and I'm all fine with him leaving. Nkunku would have been better to stay from a tactical and technical point of view, but I just feel like, no, Nkunku, his head is no longer here, so it's time for him to leave. Like, fair play, it's time for him to go, in my opinion, for Christopher Nkunku. And the centre back position, we talked about it. Cole is gone, I know, but rather than splurging cash on some 19-year-old, 20-year-old, we got Aaron Anselmino. Let's not forget, we know he hasn't played much, but he was highly rated from Boca Juniors. A lot of clubs wanted him. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea made a good offer to him, got him signed, and he's at the club. Use him. This is the opportunity you have. Josh Achiampong, use him. Use him. You've got Tosin, who I think is a very underrated defender at Chelsea. I don't know why, but he's underrated. Although I must point this out because I always try to be fair. Whether or not I rate the player, I'll always be fair. That AC Milan game, for the first, say, 5-10 minutes, Rafael Leao had him on, was just bullying him. And that was a bit odd. 6'5", big Nigerian boy. You don't allow anyone bully you. But he got bullied for the first 5-10 minutes. But later on, he came into his own and really took care of Leao. So I think Tosin is an underrated defender at Chelsea. So with Tosin, Aaron Anselmino, Josh Archiampong, Wesley Fofana, that is a brilliant defender and is unique to Chelsea, but it's just his injury sort of record. I think his minutes can be managed and in a unique way where Tosin could start alongside Josh or Tosin starts alongside Chaloba, and then Wesley Fofana, if he can choose the games he plays. Because last season, if you see last season, he played a lot of games, but he was doing a lot of back to back to back to back to back. And I think if Chelsea and Enzo Maresca adopts the same strategy they adopted for Rich James, he could play a lot of meaningful games for Chelsea. So, i.e., he plays one game and then you rest him for two. You can rest his hamstrings, rest his ankles, and then it comes in for another one, and you manage his minutes that way. So you can play key important minutes in games, especially when you're playing against the bigger oppositions that will press up against you, and you need someone who's press resistant and someone who can take the ball, who has that ball carrying ability, carry the ball from defense, to the opposition's half. So in games like that, you're playing in Man City, you're playing in Arsenal, you're playing Liverpool. So you can play in those sort of games alongside Tosin. And then in other games, you get to play Josh Achiampong alongside Tosin. I think Tosin is already a leader in the dressing room, so everyone listens to him. Like we saw the video of how he had his hand literally on the shoulder of Xavi Williams. So he's respected. Even Cole Palmer respects him already. That's a very good thing because let's face it, Cole Palmer is Chelsea's most important player at the team right now, and not just arguably Chelsea's best player. So if Cole Palmer respects Tosin, that says a lot. So instantly you have that leadership guaranteed on the pitch. So, and like of Josh, also look up to him as well. So he's on the pitch instantly. You have that respect. You have that thing where they're all looking up to him, literally, because I think he started everyone in that team. So Tosin is that, for me, should be a shoe-in to start. So I wouldn't go splurging cash on another centre back. I would make sure the deal for Xavi Simons is done, and then you lock it up. The Garnacho thing, not so keen, but it feels like it's going to happen anyway. So we best begin to accept that Garnacho will be joining Chelsea and just wish him the best. Because for me, I always say the name in front of the shirt is more important than the name on the back of the shirt. So once he signs for Chelsea, we'll support him and see how he does. Hope he doesn't give his phone so much to his brother, because I think his brother keeps posting a lot of nonsense, and that's one of the things I don't want. I do not like this thing of where you have things happening in the dressing room and somehow everyone gets to know. I don't want to know if Tosin, quarrels with Cole Palmer in the dressing room. That should be in the dressing room. You have people in closed spaces, constantly in each other's faces, constantly interacting with each other. They're going to quarrel. They're going to have beef sometimes, and they're going to squash it inside. But when you allow those sort of things to filter outside, filter to the public, then the media can twist in different ways and throw it everywhere. And that instantly creates mistrust, because if something happens in-house, you can just squash it. As men, as boys, as people, as humans, you can just squash it. Say, okay, we're going to take care of this and that. But once it's now gone outside, then it affects trust. So I think maybe it's something that Chelsea will take charge and say, okay, we've signed you. All that nonsense shenanigans you were up to at Manchester United, he stays back there at Old Trafford and Carrington, whatever. He stays there. It doesn't come to Cobham and Stamford Bridge. So maybe that's something that can be done. So overall, what do you think about all the news that making the rounds about Chelsea, transfer news, transfer rumors? What are some opinions? Let me know in the chat. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It means a lot. Click the like like button, smash the like button, please. And I'm hoping to get to at least 200 subscribers by Sunday. If you can make it happen, I will be grateful. But if I'll be grateful if that can happen. So let's see how it shakes down. And let me know your squad prediction for the game. I know it's still a bit early. It's on Sunday. Chelsea get to play. So let me know, who would you want to see start game? Would you still be looking for? Um, would you take the team to start against AC Milan as the team to start? As the team to start that game with Crystal Palace. So let me know some opinions about that. And yeah, let me know some opinions on that. You know what you think. Smash the like button, people. Thank you so much. For those who subscribe, those smash the like button, thank you so much. And we'll be having this live every day to know, so I can come on here and give you updates on what's the latest on Chelsea, the latest news on Chelsea, transfer news, talking about teams and tactics and all that stuff. And also, if you want to join me on here for post-match reactions to the game, let me know, because we have a live like this. I can share the link and we can have the discussion as well. If you want to join me on here, let me even try that if that would happen. If you want to join me on here, I'll just drop the link in the chat. So you can click and join the show if you want to join. So overall, when you think about Chelsea, think about Enzo Maresca. There's one thing I want to say with Enzo Maresca. I'm happy that he's beginning to adopt new styles, new strategy. So Rick Roy says, do you appreciate Garnacho move? For me, while I'll say this, first off, Rick, I'll say this: he's not without talent. He's not without talent, you know. So before you make it through the Chelsea's academy, Manchester United academy, and all that, you're not without talent. So he's not without talent, and he's had good moments in sports for Manchester United. So fair play in that regard. And he falls in that kind of mold of a lot of players that Chelsea signed. Young player, has a lot of talent, you know, exciting in some situations. But is it really, really, really what Chelsea need? I don't think so. Like, you've got Gittins, you've got Harry Judge. Now I look at Garnacho, I'll say this, and people think that this is some mad hot take, this is some crazy thing that no one can ever say. But I look at Garnacho, I look at Harry Judge, I ask myself, is he really better than Harry Judge? I don't quite think so. I don't quite think so. You might have a different opinion, but I don't quite think that Garnacho is better than Tyreek George. I don't. I think Tyreek George is just game time away from being a very important player for a Premier League team, maybe Chelsea. You know, he's just game time away, back to back to back to back game time away from being a super important player for Chelsea, in my opinion. And you have Gittins already. And there's talk of reintegrating, Nicholas Jackson to the team if a deal is not done, because Chelsea are not really pushing to sell Nicholas Jackson. So if you got Gittins as the number one left winger and you got Tyreek Judge as the number two left winger, then the Garnacho thing is not slightly overkill, especially when he's not an absolute needle mover, in my opinion. Now, what that means is if Chelsea go on to sign Garnacho, as it seems right now to happen, if Chelsea signs Garnacho, it then means that Tyreek Judge, sayonara, is either gone on loan or will be sold on a permanent transfer. So that's how I look at it. So that's not the way I look at it. So I think of him as Mudrik's replacement. That's a fair point to make in terms of Gittins being the number one left winger and then Mudrik being, I don't know if he's 7 is banned. I don't know, this whole thing around Mudrik. He just seems to be shrouded in a lot of secrecy when it shouldn't have to be. But no one really knows what's happened with Mudrik, but he's not available. That's clear for everyone to see. So maybe he's his replacement, but I see in Tyreek George a replacement for Mudrik. like the second left wing option. Gittins the number one and him as the second left wing option. But right now we have a situation where these two sporting directors are high on Garnacho. And the thing with Chelsea is that you have Joe Shield. Joe Shield has his people that he supports, that he wants. All the people that he sort of coached or managed at Manchester City, he usually wants them at Chelsea. And Maresca is always kind of open to those players because he managed the Manchester City Allied Development Squad. So you kind of get that kind of connection. And then you have these sporting directors that have people they like. And for whatever reason, they like Garnacho. Now, he can be an exciting player in moments, but is he an absolute needle mover? Let's see. Speaking about left wingers, there's one left winger that is not coming directly to Chelsea, but probably will be going to Strasbourg because there have been negotiations between Blue Co and Southampton, and that's Samuel Edozie. Now it's an exciting winger. It's kind of like a Palmer that is a winger. If you get what I mean, if you see him play, you get what I mean. It's kind of like a Palmer who is a winger. He's got really serious pace. He'll be heading out to Strasbourg. So the deal is from Strasbourg is from Southampton to Strasbourg. So that's it with respect to left wing. So I don't even know if he ever comes to play for Chelsea, but that's that. Now Garnacho. So that's my take on Garnacho. He comes in, he signs on the dotted line for Chelsea. Support him all through, no worries. So I think the portfolio of the squad has been kept same by sporting directors, i.e. the 2023-24 season. Gittins replaced Sancho, Garnacho replaces Mudryk, Simons replaces Felix, Pedro replaces Nkunku. Fair plays on that one. But now, it's interesting you say Simons will replace João Felix. Now, do you think, this is a question I want to ask if you're watching, wherever you're watching, do you think that Xavi Simons would be allowed to play in that 10 role? That's what I hope to see happen. That's what I hope. Why I hope he's being signed. When the signing gets completed, I hope that's why he's being signed. But do you think that Xavi Simons will be allowed to play in that 10 role, either coming off the bench for Palmer or starting in place of Palmer in some games, or playing alongside Palmer? Or there'll be a problem with that, because I think that's one of the issues with João Felix at Chelsea, right? João Felix is a 10. He's not a winger. He's not. Suppose at Barcelona he played on the wing. Not really, no. Now you can start on the wing. You have your formation 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. Someone stands on the left wing. But when the game starts, the person's in the middle. You can't say it's a winger. So that thing with João Felix. He was meant to be in that 10 role, but we saw in the Wolves game, that was one game that's always stuck in my mind. Cole Palmer was hopping on one foot because it was kicked up and down the pitch, and the referee was absolutely shameless, in my opinion. Absolutely shameless. He didn't book the Wolves player for just kicking the living daylight out of Palmer. But Enzo Maresca refused, for whatever reason, to take off João Felix. So what I'm just hoping is, if Simons is signed, he should be played centrally. I know people say he has pace. Oh, he's got a lot of pace. Yeah, he does. Certain things make players special in their position. Just like we had with Kante. Kante, had amazing longs to go box to box, play 290 minutes. And then someone thought it was a smart idea to make him box to box midfielder. And then he struggled. He struggled. So Rick says, I think he covers number 10 role when we rest Palmer, and if Maresca think Gittins not ready, then probably play left wing. Now, I agree with you on the first part of that statement, but on the second part, I just hope that doesn't happen, because I know the Chelsea fan base. I'm sure, Rick, you know the Chelsea fan base as well. If Gittins is played on the left wing and they struggled, whoo, no one would even care that he's being played out of position to be, oh, Simons is not good, throw him away, bad player, overrated, da, 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 da. That's why they don't want to sign him. He is a 10. What I want to see with Xavi Simons is if Maresca decides he wants to go flexible, he wants to tweak the formation a bit and play with 3 10s, just like we had with Mazaka, that is, we had with Hazard, Mata, and Oscar, where he played 3 10s. So if you want to play 3 10s, have fullback overlapping, then you play your Palmer, you play your Estevao William that can double as a 10, and Xavi Simons. Then you have 3 of them playing that 10 role, and they can dovetail and move around and build that relationship behind the striker that can be João Pedro or Liam Delap. Now, if that happens, happy with that. But Xavi Simons, I don't want to see him out wide. I just don't want. If Chelsea are unable to get Garnacho, there'll be a relief for me, but I know people are out there that want Garnacho. If Chelsea are unable to get Garnacho, then Tyreek George should remain. It should be Gittins, number 1, left wing option, Tyreek George, number 2, left wing option. In fact, it should be Gittins 1A, Tyreek George 1B, and you have that healthy competition between both of them, for that left wing option. Because I think a lot of people are sleeping on Tyreek George. That's just my opinion. People might have a different opinion, of course, and that's why talking about football is so interesting, because people are allowed to have different subjective opinions, and maybe not all the time is anyone wrong. It's just that probably see things differently. So you could have that healthy competition between Tyreek George and Gittins if Chelsea are unable to get Garnacho. But the way things are, I think probably Chelsea will get Garnacho, and probably that would be come the end of the transfer window type of thing. I seriously don't want it to be that way. I want everything to get sewn up. But we've seen with this ownership group, that sometimes the transfer dealings always drag on towards the end of the window. We saw it with Caicedo. We saw it with Enzo Fernandez. So that's it. So that's it. So I want that kid George to be a good success at our club. I agree. A lot of people, Rick, I really agree with you on that one. 100%. Because a lot of people are going on, oh, Rio Ugumoha is better than Tyreek George. Why did we let Rio go? Why did and kept Tyreek George? Tyreek George was the better player, more highly rated player at the academy. And when you see him on the pitch, you see that he belongs. I'm not saying he's world class yet. I'm not going to go to those sort of hyperbolic levels. He shows that he belongs there. He's willing to run at his man. He's willing to try to get past his man, put cross into the box, check onto his right foot and things like that. So he belongs. So that's one of the reasons I look at Garnacho. Now, if you're signing an absolute needle mover in that left wing, like someone who's top of the pile, end product merchant, like you getting Ademola Lookman, for instance, end product merchant that will give you 15, 16 goals from that left wing, will probably give you an additional 5 or 6 assists in the league. Then while it hurts you, because it's an academy player with so much talent, you can say, Tyreek George, I know you're so good, but we're sending you out on loan because this super player is coming, something like that. But when you're bringing in someone that still has to come in and has to develop again, I kind of feel like maybe that's not a good enough reason for you to let a player like Tyreek George go. That's just the way I see it. Now, some people, for some reason, think Garnacho is the second coming of Ian Robben or something, or Damien Duff, or one of those. I don't quite see it that way. But like I always say, when he signs on that dotted line, I will support him, root for him, because I'm not one of those that will want the player not to succeed so I can prove that I'm right. No. If he comes in, puts his head down, improves himself right, not proving me wrong, proves himself right, then we'll all cheer for him and all be happy that he's successful. Because if he comes to Chelsea and is successful, that means the team is successful. So fair play on that one. If you're join the stream, let me know your opinions on the various transfer news and topics we talked about today. We talked about Veiga going possibly to Dortmund or Benfica. We talked about Nkunku possibly heading to RB Leipzig, with Xavi Simons going the other way, but not in a sort of swap deal, but in two separate deals. Some opinions on that one. We talked about Garnacho, obviously. We talked about players that could leave and that we could want to leave. I've said my number one is Sterling. I want Sterling to leave. I just think his time at Chelsea probably is a signing that if Todd Bowley looks back at, probably wouldn't have made. So the people like want to leave Disasi, BOMBSHELL, those guys have to leave. They have to leave. It's always strange to me how each time the transfer window comes around, BOMBSHELL is kind of sort of injured and then kind of sort of is recovering towards the end of the window. It's odd to me. I'm not saying anything, but I don't think he is really that centre back. People say, and so I think Josh is ahead of him, in my opinion. Josh is ahead of him. Tosin is ahead of him. Wesley Fofana, when fit, is ahead of him, and Disasi. I just think for Disasi, he's someone that doesn't suit how Maresca wants to play because one, he is super slow. He's super slow. You want to play high line with a super slow centre back? Want to play? You want him to shift out wide when he's super slow? No. He's good when you play him as a typical orthodox centre back that sits in front of that pairs up with another centre back, sits in front of the goalkeeper and just defends. If you play that way, then brilliant. But any high line type of overly revolutionary style of centre back, then it becomes a bit of a challenge to see Disasi playing in that role. So Rick says BOMBSHELL will stay, in my opinion, after Colwell's injury. Yeah, I can see him staying. Because probably that's an argument that the club would make to convince themselves to say BOMBSHELL should stay, cover for Colwell. I can see it. But I'm just saying from my own perspective, if today someone says, step into this office, you're one of the sporting directors for Chelsea until the transfer window ends, and I think BOMBSHELL, Disasi will be one of the first names. Sterling, BOMBSHELL, Disasi will be one of the names to be off the list. Because I think now BOMBSHELL has more experience than Josh Archiampong. He does, because he's played more games for Monaco. Has more first minutes for Chelsea than Josh played. But when you look at how Josh is on the ball, now I'm not one of those Cobham worshippers that once you see an academy graduate, oh, he is the next best thing, he is Baresi, he is the new Van Dijk. No. But when you see the way Josh plays, the way he is on the ball, how he progresses the ball, covers every blade of grass with the ball, progresses the ball, carries the ball, kind of say he deserves to be there. Like each time he plays, it looks like he's meant to be there. And that's one of the biggest accolades or positive things you can say about a young academy player playing in the first team. You don't look out of place. And Josh Archiampong doesn't look out of place. And in terms of the physical attributes, I think he has more of those physical attributes than, BOMBSHELL. He can play out wide as a right-sided centre-back wide, or be on the touchline, when the team is pressing high up. And he can also play as an actual central centre-back. So I think he fulfills both functions. And Aaron Anselmino, I would rather give Aaron Anselmino minutes over BOMBSHELL. That's how I feel, because, like I said, he was highly rated, signed a lot of clubs. Real Madrid, Barcelona wanted his signature. Chelsea were able to convince him, get him into Chelsea. And then BOMBSHELL has had his time. I think he's been given his time, he's been given his moments. And one of the, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, my subjective opinion, one of the saddest things for me to watch is BOMBSHELL playing out from the back. It hurts my soul watching BOMBSHELL playing out from the back. He's so slow, he holds the ball, he stands there, waits till the opposition player stands right in front of his face, and then he plays it. I'm like, what are you doing? You're slowing the attack of the team. He just looks, no. So breakout season for Anselmino, I agree. If he's given time, given the confidence, let him play, give him minutes, I think he will be good. So that's why I have some confidence in the centre-back options Chelsea have at the minute. Josh Archiampong, Tosin, Adebayo, Chaloba, You have Wesley Fofana that I think you manage because of his injury. You manage him and he'll be fine. So Mixes Bajashil was so good initially before his first injury. Yeah, so I think probably he's lost a step with that injury, and maybe he still has that fear in his mind. But sometimes you have an injury and you begin to think, you begin to be tentative about everything, every tackle, every move you make, every pass you want to take. You keep thinking, you keep feeling the impact of that injury in your mind. You keep anticipating a contact to make you to get you injured. So um, that's it. So Rick says Lavia and Fofana game management would be crucial. Yeah, for me, I think Lavia right now, I don't feel that much pressure with respect to Lavia because right now I think that central midfield role position is stacked. You have four players going for two spots, which is what you want to see in a big team like Chelsea. So you've got Esugo, Caicedo. So they would play, they'll exchange positions in terms of one would play for the other one. So Esugo is like the backup for Caicedo. You've got Andre Santos and Enzo Fernandez. And for me, I don't think the gap is that wide between Enzo Fernandez and Andre Santos, in my humble opinion. But you have to sort it out. So for me, Lavia, I'm not feeling that much pressure for Lavia. So he can take his time, get fit. And even when he gets fit, I think he should play one game every 2 weeks because that midfield area is stacked, super stacked. So you're not under any real crazy pressure, to get Lavia to play. Andre Santos is there, Esugo is there. Esugo is so good. He's so good. He's still young. He's so good. People see him as this tough tackling player, but he's also very good on the ball. So I think that's very good scouting from the board and the scouting team at Chelsea. I think that's very, very good signing. So for me, Lavia, I have no issues with him. Take your time, get fit, and play him sparingly. Find those super important games for him to play. Yeah, those super, super important games, he can come off the bench and play. But you got Esugo, look at the tackle he made that AC Milan game. The player for AC Milan felt like he had gone past him. He just stuck his foot out in Caicedo fashion, just tapped the ball away. So I'm happy with that midfield area. It's covered. It's covered. And for final game management will be crucial. Yeah. No need to rush him. Josh is there. Tosin is there. Chaloba is there. Aaron Anselmino is there. No need to rush. Just take your time. Come good. So I think rather than going out to splash the cash on some player, like I know a lot of people want bring, and that's it with a lot of Chelsea fans where we love our signing, we love some signitanium, that signing that just gets you going, sign one more player. So I know some Chelsea fans wants in Capie. So but for me, well, I don't think it's a real need. Okay, Rick says, okay, let me ask one question. If we get fully fit Enzo, Caicedo, Lavia, do you think Maresca use Enzo, Caicedo, Lavia in midfield? Who would sacrifice position in offense in order to occupy this midfield? Now, with Enzo Maresca, you can never say never. He may choose to do that, but I just think that would be slightly overkill, in my opinion. I think Palmer to play in the 10 is fine. Savallo on the right is fine. Gittins on the left is fine. Now, but if they have to play with this three-man thing at the back, so that means you're going with a 4-3-1-1 or is it 4-3-2-1? Yeah, maybe 4-3-2-1, maybe. So that means Enzo, Caicedo, Lavia, and then you play Palmer and maybe Xavi Simons, because I think that's what you do. Then you'll be sacrificing Mr. Vaio. I think that's what could happen. That would happen. For me, if you're playing big games and you feel like your position will dominate possession, or at least will get a Lions would have a lot of possession, I wouldn't go with three. I would go with either Lavia and Caicedo or Esugo and Caicedo. because I feel those two can lock up that midfield. Those two can lock up the midfield while Cole Palmer is allowed to create. Estevao is allowed to run the channels, run the wings, be creative, run out there. Gittins can also walk out there. And I think in those big games, that's where Gittins can really show his pace, because in those big games, team like Man City or let's say if you get Barcelona, God, I want Barcelona. I want Barcelona in the Champions League. I want Barcelona. I don't know why I want Barcelona in the Champions League. I want Barcelona. So in those games, he can really, someone like Gittins will really have the opportunity to really hit on the break, hit on the counter attack. So that's something that I would like to see. But I want Barcelona and that high line. That Barcelona and their high line with Gittins, Estevao, that would be a match made in football heaven. So that's what I would go with. I wouldn't go with the 3, but I would understand if you're going with that 3 in sort of like a big Champions League game where you're playing against a side that will dominate possession. I kind of get that, but I think that would be a bit of overkill. Rather, I'll keep Enzo Fernandez on the bench and have 2 powerful ball winners. So I may go with Andre Santos and Caicedo, or Caicedo and Esugo, because I think Andre Santos is more athletic than Fernandez, more physical than Fernandez, but he has, I think, he has not passing range that is up to Fernandez, but it's close in terms of passing range. So if you're playing a game where you need your 2 central midfielders to really, really, really defend and protect the back 4, then that's something that could happen. So Caicedo or Santos, or Caicedo and Santos, or Caicedo and Esugo. That's what I would go with, going into those big Champions League games. So that's what I say. So, some opinions on the various topics we've talked about today. Thank you so much for everyone who's watched the channel, watched the video, and supported, subscribe, like the channel. Let's keep it growing. Hopefully, come match day, I want to get to. Hopefully, we can get 200 subscribers. Yeah, I stream daily. Rick, I stream daily on the channel, so you can subscribe and be part of it as well. And if you want to join the conversation, to come on live on screen and have a discussion, I would always drop the chat link. I'll drop the video call link on the stream link rather in the comments. You can click and join. So I stream daily, every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So join me. Although 1 or twice I missed a couple of days, but I stream daily. That's it. So join me. So thank you so much, everyone. Rick, thank you for the comments. David, thank you for the comments, and all those that may have commented I didn't see. Apologies, and thanks for all those who subscribe, who watch this channel. Any way you support this channel really does mean a lot to me. Thank you so much, and thank you, Super Chelsea fans. See you on yet another video. Stay well, stay blessed. Bye bye.